There's some projects I want to see completed. The rail is the most known one. Rail consolidation from 3rd Street to 10th Street corridor. We're targeted to finish that in 2025. We've put a lot of hard work into it, securing funds from the federal, state level, and making it happen. And that's going to be a transformational project with regards to Springfield, because it's just not about moving and making transportation happen in a better fashion, but you create economic development opportunities on both corridors. 3rd Street's going to be a pedestrian pathway, but it provides community development, and it connects up all parts of our community, whether it's south to downtown, up to the north end and our medical community. And then, of course, the 10th Street corridor, it's going to be development on both sides. What I find exciting about that particular project is with regards to east side development. You know, that's the part of our town that feels that they haven't gotten their fair share, and that's what we're really fighting for, is to make sure that it doesn't matter where you live in Springfield, everybody has the great opportunities that everybody would want to see. So that's just one of the projects, but carbon capture for CWLP, it's moving into the future with regards to partnership with the University of Illinois. Again, that was funded through the federal and state government that we helped secure those finances and make that pilot project happen. But once it proves successful with the next year, we'll be able to go to the, get the funding to go to full capacity and open up environmental and economic opportunities across the world. So we'll have technology here in Springfield that can benefit China, India, and other areas that pollute to their heart's content, and this is one way that we can move them in the right direction to address global warming.
Absolutely. You know, over your tenure, what are some of the projects that you are most proud of that you'd want viewers to, remember, hey, this is something I did for you while in office?
Well, I think one is righted the financial ship, and I could say, oh, I did it all alone. That's not the case. You always build on the strengths that we had before. So, I came in after Mayor Houston. He took some steps in the right direction. We moved forward in the same manner, but we've did shared services, and we really tightened our belt and provided great efficiencies through technology. And we have a record fund balance this year, and the residents will see the fruition of that with the building of 3 new fire stations that have been wanted for, or need one in particular has been needed for decades, and finally seeing that come to fruition so everybody can enjoy or have the proper response time of 4 minutes. Doesn't matter where you live in Springfield. So that's one key component. But the other one's with our police department. We've had challenging times with the pandemic. Other communities have seen the social unrest and had vandalism, burning of buildings, things of that nature. Here in Springfield, we built on a culture of trust with our community, and that was a lot of hard work that started with Chief Winslow, who I retained through a public forum, in our ward plan meetings, and moved in that direction. And that community engagement really paid dividends when it came down to that. We didn't have the same social unrest that others experienced, but more importantly, we moved to an era of really providing proper response to our residents. We use technology, ShotSpotter technology, as well as LPRs, and that's license plate readers. But with ShotSpotter technology, what was important about that, we did that in the pandemic when we weren't sure if we had funding, and we didn't have any layoffs or furloughs in that realm of time. But with ShotSpotter, we made that investment of millions of dollars to protect our community. And what was sad is the number of gunshots that aren't called in. And that's what the technology did. So a community that kind of became numb to the fact of gunfire, they became used to it. We were finally responding to it. So they saw that the police department did care for them. They were actually responding in a matter of minutes or a minute. And so that really proved hugely valuable, especially these really struggling or challenging social unrest times that we've all experienced.
How would you say the pandemic, impacted you? I'm sure that there were probably projects that got put on hold, or businesses obviously were negatively impacted. Do you feel like that has kind of slowed down the economic process? Because I know, that has been kind of the one criticism is recently. It's like, all right, what are the big projects that are happening? So how do you think that the pandemic did impact you?
Well, we had a double whammy. Under the previous governor, Ronner, we went 2 years without a state budget, and we had, hundreds of millions of dollars of medical projects that were put on hold because of the lack of payment. They owed City Water, Light and Power $15 million, but we managed through that and, retained our solvency with regards to the utility and made it stronger. We went from 3 days of cash to over 100 days of cash during that time period. But with regards to COVID, so that was we get the capital bill. And thanks to Governor Pritzker and the legislature in a bipartisan fashion, they passed the capital bill. Everybody's excited in 2019 what happens or yet to happen. And then COVID hits. For 2+ years, it's still, we don't know the true impact as we continue on. But with regards to that, I thanked the governor the other day, for making that happen, because that motor fuel tax and that capital bill kept people working. It kept our roads going. It kept the rail project on time and keep it, moving forward during the pandemic when people were being shut down. So that was critical infrastructure that continued on. And so we're in a great state with regards to the city of Springfield. We were voted, one of the top places to be post-pandemic, and I think that was due to a lot of the measures from the state as well as the things that we had put in place ourselves. But, we're number 17 in emerging housing markets throughout the country, number 1 in the state. So we have a lot of great opportunities, but the medical community, going back to that, they've invested, I think it's over $600 million in the last 5 years. And going into the future, where people look at now is, do they have great health care, which we do. We have an affordable housing market. We have great technology with our own broadband. We're built it out to 40 gig capacity with CWLP, and plus our water and our own utility of electricity provides that reliable, economical source of power that everybody would like.
And, obviously everything that you're doing as mayor, you're also having to work with the council, and sometimes the council is cooperative and works with, with your vision. And sometimes, like, with the Wyndham recently, they maybe are not seeing what you're seeing. So how have you been able to balance that? And, how are you hoping to continue working with them in the future to get some of these big projects going?
Well, I think the majority of our projects are passed. Ordinances presented, we present hundreds of ordinances every year, and probably 99% of them pass. The ones that are more contentious, more complicated, are the ones that get, a lot of attention because you're trying to figure out what the right process or move forward is. So, what was good is last night we had our first unanimous vote in over 12 years, and so on a budget. And so that goes to a lot of hard work that we all put in and a true understanding of what the needs are throughout our community. We have a aldermanic form of government, and this proves the critical nature of the first step I took as mayor is to have ward plan meetings. And through that whole process, what it did, it brought our community closer together because we had the ward plan meetings in each ward. Every council member or resident could understand what the priorities are for that particular area, but also how it fit into the whole realm of the city. And so that proved successful with, neighborhood news came out of that, where we have a weekly correspondence, thanks to my communications director, and moving that initiative. But it created greater awareness, greater transparency, but most importantly, a greater understanding for our council members to understand what's important to particular areas and as a city as a whole.
Absolutely. What would you say lastly, if reelected, what would you want, the residents of Springfield know about what you will bring in your next term, or, why their lives would be better if you're reelected?
Well, the first thing everybody wants is a record of decision on Lake 2. This is a 50+ year project, or people will say pie in the sky or whatever, but the Army Corps of Engineers has assured us that we will have a record of decision this year. That's critical point number one, because if you change administrations, focus changes. And we cannot have that. We cannot afford it, because the essential resource of the future, aside from people, is water. And you have to have that reliable, quality source of water. That's what we intend to do as a backup water source for Springfield. It's just not for Springfield, but for our region. The other thing is, innovation. UIS has finally made the commitment. They're moving downtown, and we're building out our broadband infrastructure, our fiber network, to provide an innovation hub. And and as well as the hub that, the transportation center. So you'll see a downtown that's dramatically different. But also, we just passed a budget that's going to supply $2 million to Pillsbury to help, leverage to state and federal funds and county funds, I should say, because it is a true community project, to demo it and get it development ready with regards to that Pillsbury property. That's been a despaired project for decades. But that whole corridor in North Grand is going to change dramatically, because we have the rail project happening. Langfelder High School is finally getting upgraded with over $100 million of advancement. So it's an investment in our young people and you have Robin Roberts Stadium and what's happening at Pillsbury and the whole housing redevelopment that we'll do with the TIF that's been extended for economic development of our housing initiative through Bloomberg Harvard, and providing workforce training, affordable housing opportunities for others, and stabilizing that area as well as the east side of Springfield. So a lot of good opportunities for Springfield, and we want to see finally reach the point where people will say, why don't you be like Springfield instead of the other way around? So that's what my focus has always been, is putting things into action, plans into action, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor right now, and we hope to continue to do so.
What do you maybe bring to the table that your opponent doesn't?
Well, experience, number one. Nobody's had the experience that I've had. 2 years without a state budget, over 2 years of a health crisis that nobody knew what would come, and we navigated through that. You know, when we talk about how do you make your community get better, it's by keeping them united. We had no more contentious time than during the pandemic. And we have a split city council. You know, we have some Democrats, some Republicans on there. We voted unanimously to have a mask mandate. We're the first city to do that in the state of Illinois. And what that did, we used data based on a doctor's advisement, because communities that did that saw a drop of 50% in the infection rate and the hospitalizations. So we put that in place and protected our public. But in the same vein, we worked together to support businesses, support our residents, and move in the right direction. So really, those are tests of time that nobody has experienced. So I think if we weathered successfully through a pandemic, you can face all the challenges and move ahead. And it wasn't easy. We had to make tough decisions, and we're at a better time in our lives with a record fund balance. We're moving forward with projects that were on the books for decades, and we're seeing them to fruition, and we need to continue to do so we can be the model city that everybody would like us to be.